Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to BCTC live Q&A session. We're so happy that you joined us today, and you have a treat because we have somebody who can help you, help me, help Corey, help us all a whole lot, and that is Kevin Dunn, and he is our Assistant Dean of Distance Learning, which means really online learning,
Right.
correct, Kevin?
Yep, that's right. Trying to get that changed if I can. Working on it.
That's right. We've joined the 21st century or whatever we're in. Well, also I want to introduce Corey Mulligan. He is our digital marketing coordinator, and he also has a lot of experience. Well, his work is all online, but he also has a lot of experience online as a student. So we want to make both of these experts available to you for questions. You'll see at the bottom there information about our next chat. So if you want to join next time, you want to just go to that webpage. I'll remind you again at the end. But more importantly, if you have questions, please go ahead and post them in the chat, and we will let our experts answer your questions. So I'm going to kick it off, Kevin, with the first question, and it's really my question. We have experienced something very unique in the past 6 months. We have gone to all online learning that started in the middle of our spring semester. And tell us a little bit about how that differs from traditional online learning. What was the difference between March and May and what you normally do?
If you were taking an online class, a fully online class, you probably never notice a difference. There shouldn't have been any change there. The biggest difference was for those classes that were already on campus or hybrid, and they met on campus, and then they had to rapidly, I mean, very rapidly, within really less than a week, move everything they were doing on campus online and doing what we would consider remote instruction. It truly wasn't an online class because it wasn't set up for online. They were just providing instruction from a remote location, and the students were also remote. So those two parties were now remote instruction instead of in-person instruction. So it was a big bump. It was a big change for a lot of people. I know students, some of them weren't happy. A lot of the faculty, it was a big change for them as well because they weren't ready to do, this huge shift over to online. So we've worked out a lot of those kinks. We've also did some extensive planning for summer. Has been pretty much all online, but for the fall, we've done some pretty extensive training and sessions and planning for putting things mostly hybrid, and that way you're going to meet mostly on campus, then mostly online, just like a half and half thing. Mm-hmm. But then we've made plans, though, if we do have to move over, faculty should have a pretty good idea of what they need to do when things change over to online if they need to.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, and actually having experienced it, I think that one of the huge differences was there were some faculty and students who had never done anything online.
Exactly.
So not only were they learning the things that they were studying, but they also had to learn how to operate in a whole different platform in a whole different way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we have probably high school students who will be joining us this fall, and they also had that same experience. But tell us, Kevin, you said that we'll be better prepared if for some reason we do need to shift to that learning mode again. And you also mentioned hybrid. So if I'm a freshman coming in this year and I chose or preferred in-person classes, how's that going to look different for me this year?
I'm pretty sure they're going to have in-person classes, like fully in-person classes. I think those are going to be a smaller number, but they're mostly going to be the lab-based classes. A large majority of the on-campus classes are switching over to a hybrid format. So that means it really just depends on how the faculty itself wants to do it and what the rules coming into fall end up being, because nothing's 100% finalized right now. We'll know a week before classes start what we're going to look like when we start, really. Mm-hmm. But the plan is that if you go by what's going on right now, the plan would be like half of your students would be in the class one day a week, and the other half of the class would be in another day of the week, and then the rest of the material would be online. So that on-campus session would be with only half the class at a time. So you're not getting all 20 students shoved into one room. there would be some distancing between them and all that stuff. So that's kind of the on-campus part of it, is you're going to have like a rotating schedule where you're not going to be there every day that you would normally be there. Like most of our classes are a 2-day a week, Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday kind of class. You may only be scheduled for the Monday sessions, and then your rest of your material is going to be online, or you might be in the Tuesday or the Wednesday session and your other materials are going to be online. So that's kind of what our schedules are going to look like for the hybrid, traditionally on-campus classes. Again, the online classes really shouldn't be any different. I think the number of online classes is probably ramped up a bit, but the formatting for online, if you've ever done online classes, I don't think you'll notice any major difference there.
Yes, but our students who traditionally don't take online classes will see some difference. Now, if I'm a student, how am I going to know? And I know that you don't know every detail of this because you clearly said that it will be determined by the faculty. And I think we also have to say that BCTC is making plan A, plan B, and plan C, and preparing for maybe there could be a plan D, because honestly, we don't know what's going to happen with this virus. But if things go according to plan A, let's say, how would I know which day? Is the instructor going to be communicating with me prior to class to tell me when to come? Yeah,
that'll come from the instructor. They'll set it up to where they'll have their rotating schedule. I would guess, since we haven't got there yet to experience it, I would guess in their planning, they're going to have a set number of students that they're allowed to have on campus that by the rules, and they'll just have to split their classes up accordingly. So, yeah.
Great. And when you talk about the rules, what we're doing here at BCTC is we're following the governor's mandates for social distancing and the number of people we can have gathered in one place with appropriate social distancing. So there are a lot of things to consider. And so that's a whole separate issue. Let's just talk about regular online learning and how to be successful. Does that sound good, Kevin?
Yeah, and this will also help hybrid students too, because a large portion of their material is going to be online. So, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So whether you've done this before or you haven't, tell us a little bit about, not you, Kevin, the students. Tell us a little bit more about what technical skills that a student would need to practice or get up on before starting a class online or even a hybrid class.
Okay. If possible, the recommendation is that you have some kind of digital literacy course before you start an online class. Hybrid, not so much, because you will have that face-to-face interaction with your instructor, so you can ask questions. If you're doing fully online, we do recommend you have some kind of computer literacy course, if at all possible. If you can't, there's an option. It just got added recently, and all the students at BCTC and KCTCS in general, there is an option where you can go into an orientation session through Blackboard. And you can go through an orientation that tells you kind of how to be a really good online student. It talks about the Blackboard system itself. It kind of goes and explains things. If we'll have instructions for that more when we get closer to the fall semester, because we're still working on it. But as far as what's needed, really just those basic computer skills. It's pretty user friendly. If you've browsed a web page, you pretty much can get around most of Blackboard. The confusing part is, not every instructor does the same thing the same way every time in every class. So every class is a little different as far as how you submit assignments, what the assignments look like, the timing, the scheduling, all that's determined by the faculty themselves. So my first recommendation is always read your syllabus first. That's where the 90% of your information is going to come from as far as how the class is structured. If you have questions about how to get to things, always email or contact your instructor, whatever way their preferred method is. Always contact the instructor first, and they will be able to give you feedback, because they are the expert on their content and the layout of their course. So they're the ones that will be able to tell you, how to do certain things. So beyond basic computer skills, just being aware that the instructor's there to answer questions.
Great. And I think that's necessary for any class that you're taking, right? You really need to pay attention. I think deadlines sometimes are easy to miss when you're taking an online class.
Super easy. That's probably the biggest. When students say, what can I do to be a successful student? I say always check your class at least 3 times a week. Check your email at least once a day, if not multiple times a day. But at least once a day, check your email, go into your online course at least 3 times a week. And stay on top of those assignments. Don't wait until the last day. I can't tell you how many times as an instructor myself, how many times I had students wait to the very last day, 3 hours before the test was going to go away and go offline, and they would get online and try to take the test and have problems. And then I have to be, if I'm not right there on my email to see that they had problems, they just won't get the test done. And then I have to deal with that afterwards. Like, why can't I get in my test? Can you reset it and things? And sometimes you can't. So depending on what your syllabus says. So get those assignments done early. That's my biggest advice.
Good. And Corey, I saw you nodding your head. Do you have something you'd like to add to that?
Well, definitely reading the syllabus. It's very, very important. Often, it varies from teacher. I had one that it was about 20 pages long. Others were much more shorter, but often they try and put all the information you need in there. And definitely about keeping your eye out on those due dates. My best advice, go to the Dollar Tree, get a calendar, and just fill out all the dates stuff is due. Because I don't know how many times people would get lost. Because if you are especially using something like the McGraw-Hill Connect or something like that, you might have due dates in different areas. So having kind of condensing those into one, you're doing Excel, your calendar on your phone, or just a physical calendar, keeping track of those due dates is important.
That's great. Good advice.
Yeah, and if you live in Outlook like I do, I live in Outlook all the time. Also use your Outlook calendar, your Google Calendar, or something like that. It'll pop up reminders for you too. So it's just another tool to use.
Yeah. And, we talk to students when we begin the semester about planning and making sure that they have those important dates and due dates written down. So this is, no different digitally than it would be if you're doing it with paper and pen, or if you want to do it with paper and pen, you can still do that. But just making sure that you're paying attention, because once it's gone, sometimes it's gone. You can't get it back, right? When it's not available anymore, it's just not, right?
Yep, that's what I mean. Like I said, every class is different, but my classes, I always set them up to where they have a due date, and then a week after that date, they go away. Yeah. And I could post them back up, but it's in my syllabus. I do not post them after it's removed. So there is no option to make it up after that week.
Yeah. And I think sometimes you think, oh, well, I'll just do it all. Like I'm off for a week, so I'll just do everything then. And in some classes that would be okay because instructors allow that, but you need to make sure you know what the rules are.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, do I need a special kind of computer if I'm taking an online class? What would you recommend?
Pretty much any computer will work as long as it's not, an old Commodore 64 or something from the 80s. Pretty much anything will work that'll run a modern browser. Really, that's the biggest thing, is you want to have a fairly updated modern browser. I've been using Microsoft Edge, the new Microsoft Edge, which is based on Chromium, which is basically the same system Chrome was based on. Chrome and Edge work really well. The Firefox used to work really well, and it's gotten a little flaky here lately. I don't know why, but there's always changes going on in the back end. But so anything you can run a modern browser on should be okay. Chromebooks are okay, but they don't work as well as we might like for them to. They have issues, but any kind of PC, Macintosh computer, even some tablets are okay, but there's a lot of work that you can't do even on like an iPad or something like that. You just can't do the work you need to do on there to participate in the class. Like most of the live sessions work okay, but some of the submitting assignments and things work are a little, they work, but they're a little flaky on an iPad. So we recommend a PC or a Mac, and as long as it's will run in a modern browser, you should be fine.
And if you ran into trouble not being able to submit assignments or something like that, what should you do? I mean, how would you know it's a computer problem or some other?
Contact your instructor first to see if it's okay for them to let them know that you're having issues. That's the biggest thing, because if you don't tell them, they have no way of knowing. They just think you didn't submit something, so they don't know that there was an issue. Yeah. The second thing to do is there's a Blackboard or KCTCS Go Students help desk that you can get a hold of. If you log into Blackboard, the very first time you log in, and every time you log into Blackboard, you're brought to an institution page, which is the default page. On that page, there's a link to help, a help desk page. Just link on that. It'll take you to the help desk. You can submit a ticket. You can call someone. I think they do live chat as well. So they're your first contact past the instructor beyond letting them know. If you're having issues, get a hold of the help desk. They're the best avenue for help.
Okay. So I have a cell phone and it has a browser on it. Would you recommend using that for my class?
No. You can do a lot on the phone, and like I said, the tablet, but the phone's even more limited. You can check your messages in your classes. You can look at due dates and things like that, but you really can't submit assignments. And I can't even, if you're in an English class, you could probably type a paper up on your phone. Don't know if that would be an enjoyable thing to do. My daughter could probably do it with 2 fingers, but she's a lot younger than I am. But it's hard to submit assignments using a phone. One of the cool things about a phone is there are ways you can use your phone for an alternative to a webcam. It's a little finicky about how you get it working, and you have to do other software and things, but it's a possibility that you can not have a webcam and use your phone, because a lot of people last semester were having to do that because you couldn't buy webcams anywhere. They were sold out everywhere. And if you went on eBay and tried to buy one, a $25 camera was $250, because they knew you needed it. Wow. So, a lot of people used their phones last semester. So they can be used in your online class, but don't expect to do all your work on a phone, because it just won't work.
Yeah.
And
frustrating.
I can kind of second that. You can get the Blackboard app.
Right.
And it's not really great for doing the work, but it's good for keeping on top of that stuff. I don't know how many times I would, get the email grades are posted, and I would just use the app because it's quicker. So really, it's just more of a overview, if you will, of your courses, not really like where you would do all your work.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. It could be very frustrating and not productive. So we do have a question in the chat, and I also want to remind you, looks like we have 2 questions. That's exciting. Please post your questions in the chat so we can answer them. So Kevin, the first question we have is, do we have an option to do online or in-person classes?
Yeah, when you register for your classes, there'll be a mode of instruction, and it's really hard to see, and sometimes it's a code. But usually, if you look at the classes when you're searching for classes through the catalog, the online catalog, the notes will say this is an online class, and you can just look for that note saying it's online. It usually gives a link to how to get more information. But yes, you'll have a choice. The on-campus class, just keep in mind that we won't have a lot of fully 100% on-campus classes. A large majority of the on-campus classes are now going to be hybrid, so they're all going to have an online component to them. So I just want to remind people of that, because if you're trying to completely avoid online instruction, you're probably going to have a hard time doing it from here for at least the foreseeable future, just because of all the COVID stuff going around. So, and the rules based on how we need to conduct classes. So while all of your instruction may not be online, you may have assignments and things to be done online. So just keep that in mind. You can't fully choose probably a 100% in-person class anymore, at least for fall.
Right. And that's not a BCTC thing. That's a 9 Steps of America thing.
Right. Yeah. That's not a decision we would make. I mean, if we would have everybody, right there in class be in a normal class like always,
right.
But things aren't normal right now.
Exactly. And 2, we know that this can be frustrating, and this is not necessarily the experience that some people want, but it is a way for us to keep everybody healthy at BCTC. So.
Right. And with the amount of planning we've done and the training we've done for those faculty that had never done online before, there's, like I said, extensive training for faculty and planning as well. They should have a pretty good idea of what they're going to do with their class by the time they start up with fall. So if you were in the spring and you thought things were a little rough, they probably were. Yeah. Just to be honest, in some cases, they probably were, because you have faculty trying to figure it out as they were going, like I said, with less than a week's notice. So this fall semester should be a little bit better. So if the online thing scares you because you went through spring, don't be quite so worried this time.
Yeah. And I think also knowing what the plan is, not being thrown into a situation, maybe can help with that as well. Yeah. But our instructors are so focused on making sure that our students are successful. I think that the key thing is, just as you mentioned, Kevin, don't suffer in silence. Don't just not turn something in. Don't just drop away. Give your instructor an opportunity to help. And there were even some students this spring who didn't have computers, and we worked with them to try to loan them computers. So there are options like that available too, correct?
Right. Yeah. Now that's out of my area. That's more of the IT people. But yes, those were options available to students during the spring, to where they did have some laptops and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and Kevin is a prime example of an instructor who wants to make sure you're successful. He teaches other instructors how to make sure you're successful.
That's right.
So the next question we have, Kevin, is where do you find the syllabus? And I assume they mean for their course.
Basically, I hate this that it's like this, but the syllabus, you have to be in the class, and the class has to be opened online before you can actually see the syllabus.
I wish there for 1 second. What does that mean, opened online?
Because the class, when it's first created, is not made available to students. Basically, it's kind of locked. It's kind of made unavailable. So when you try to click on it, the students can't actually click on it. The faculty is probably back in the background making changes and updating the class, and adding information, that kind of thing. Once the faculty member is ready to do the class, then they'll click make available. And once they've made the class available, then you can go into that course and look around and do whatever they've opened up for you. Once the class is available through Blackboard, you'll be able to see your syllabus if it's been posted, which it should be if they've made it available. We don't have a repository or a place where syllabi are stored outside of that right now, and I don't know that that's even in the plans right now to like pre-populate syllabi into a place where you can look at them before the class begins. So if you do want to see something before a class begins, what I would recommend is to email the instructor that's teaching the class. Mm-hmm. A large majority of the time, they'll say, I may not have this semester's ready yet, but I can give you something from last semester, or I can give you what I have right now, or something like that. So most faculty are pretty willing to give their syllabi out a little early if you'd want to take a look at it.
That's excellent. And how would you find that instructor's email address, Kevin?
When you sign up for the class, unless it says staff, which means we're still assigning people to the class, you should have an instructor name there. And then on our website, if you go to faculty and staff, which I know is an odd place to go, but if you go to faculty and staff, it'll have a faculty and staff directory. You can click that and search by last name, and you'll find their email address there.
Yes. And, well, I'm not going to make a statement. I'm going to ask a question. How much do instructors like students contacting them and asking these questions?
They'd much rather you contact them and ask a question than not to contact them and just then get mad about it after 2 weeks and things haven't been solved, but you never reach out to them in the first place. So always contact your instructor, regardless of what issues you're having, and let them know you're having an issue. Ask questions if you have questions. Never, like you said, suffer in silence. Always contact your instructor, because your instructor is the first line of defense for issues you may have, questions you have about the course, content questions you might have. They are the person that's in control of that class. So yeah, always contact your instructor. They're not going to say, wow, this person's asking way too many questions. I've never heard that come from a faculty.
Nice. And as an instructor, would you be impressed if a student were already asking for a syllabus?
That is pretty impressive. Yeah. And I've seen that from other ones wanting to know what books they need. And I've seen that from that, but to want to know kind of what the plan is, that is nice. Now I do have to warn you, they probably don't have their plan finalized right now. I can just tell you that, because we're about a month and a half away from classes starting, and a lot of faculty are on vacation this summer. So they're probably not ready just yet, but by August 1st, most of them should be pretty much ready.
And there will be communications from the college to give you this is what's going on, this is what step we're in, maybe even some instructions on how to get into Blackboard or whatever students would need to get into. And you probably will receive communications from your instructor once Blackboard is open, correct?
Right. Yep.
Okay, terrific. So we have another question, and I'm going to throw it out there, Kevin, and if you need help, I will try to help. If you take an in-person class, then the class is converted to online because of the COVID situation, like in the spring. Is there reimbursement for that class?
I don't believe so. I don't know for sure. That's kind of out of my area. So I don't do billing and all that stuff. So, and that's kind of out of my area of expertise.
And I think that, we kind of know that that's a possibility now. So unfortunately, in March, we never experienced anything like this before. So knowing that is a possibility, but even better that we're planning for all of those possibilities to make sure that students are successful. I think that's important.
Yeah, the good thing about the first week of class, you can add drop classes the first week of classes pretty much for any class, online, on campus, whatever. So when you see that syllabi for the very first day, check the syllabus. if it has something in the plan that you don't like, switch over to a different class. I mean, that's the best thing I can say. Drop that class and get into a different one. If you don't like their plan, like let's say you're doing a hybrid or a face-to-face class and their plan involved you being, this kind of covers something else that I was going to mention later on if we get to it. But if they require maybe synchronous sessions where you have to log in during your normal class time, like let's say you have a Monday, Wednesday class, and if they were to switch over to fully online, their expectation is that you would be online during a synchronous session. In other words, at the same time, everybody's being online at the same time at 10 o'clock in the morning every Monday. If you don't like that, then change classes. That's all I can recommend. And then if you don't like that and you want to change classes, you may want to contact the instructor for the other class you're wanting to switch over to and see what their plan is, because they may have a very similar plan. It just depends on the faculty member and what they want to do.
But there's a narrow window that you have to do that, right,
Yeah.
Kevin? Not 2 weeks later.
Yeah, technically it's really only 3 days, I believe. But then there's a select group of classes during the last, like on a Thursday and Friday, that you can still get into. But yeah, really you should do it the first 3 days to 100% be able to switch over. The bad thing about waiting until the last day is, as long as the first day of classes started, you can't get a full refund. So you would have to actually switch classes. You couldn't just drop a class and get money back. You would get some money back, but you wouldn't get your full tuition. So that's why I'm saying kind of if you're worried about it, contact your instructor before classes start. That way you've got right up until that first day of class to drop and move into something else if you need to, and not have to worry about tuition and all that stuff.
Excellent. So we've talked all around this and we talked about a syllabus, but how do I access an online class?
Everything's through Blackboard, from KCTCS, which Bluegrass is a part of. We use the Blackboard system. Blackboard is a learning management system. It's basically a way to keep track of classes, materials, information, grades. All that stuff is kept inside of Blackboard. The easiest way to get through to it is there's a website that everybody should be familiar with. It's mypath.kctcs.edu, and just save it as your favorite. Go there all the time, because it's a simple single stop place to go to all kinds of different places, whether it's your email, Blackboard, Starfish. There's all kinds of different systems within that Bluegrass has and KCTCS that you can get to. So if you go to MyPath and click on the Blackboard link, it'll take you right to Blackboard, and then you can log in using the email and password you use to get to, your user ID and password you would use to get into your email or anything else, and you'll be taken straight to the institution page. On the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see a bunch of different options. One of them says courses. If you click on that, you'll be taken to a list of your current courses, and that's where you get your access to your classes. So pretty straightforward. It sounds like a lot, but when you're doing it, it's not as bad.
You'll see everything listed there, correct?
You'll see this semester, and you may or may not see a previous semester there. It counts on if it's still active for you. You probably see previous semesters there too. Okay. And at the top of that list, and if you're taking notes, which some of you may be, at the very top of the courses list, if there's a drop-down box that says current courses, if you click that and go to orientation, that's where you find the student orientation class. So if you're interested in seeing brushing your skills up in online, or seeing an idea of kind of what online classes are about, how to study for online classes, things like that, that's where you find it at.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
And is there, like on the BCTC website, because we're starting to run out of time before we run out of questions. That hasn't happened yet. So you have an important topic here. Is there a place that they can go on the BCTC website to get access to you or the information that you offer for online learning?
If you go to the easiest way I can recommend to find it is go to the website, and at the top in the little magnifying glass, search for distance learning or online learning, and you should find our page that way. That's the best way to get there.
Okay, perfect. And I think maybe Corey can pop that URL up on the screen for us in just a second too. Kevin is not only a fabulous instructor, but he also, like we said, helps the instructors brush up on their online practices. And he is an expert in all things online or distance learning, and if we're going to go with the old school way of saying that. So Kevin, you would not mind if any of our viewers wanted to contact you and ask specific questions if they didn't get their question?
No, anytime. Even if I don't have the answer, I usually can send you to the right person. I do that quite often. So I've if you've got questions about billing and stuff, I'm probably not going to be able to help you, but at least I can get you in contact with the correct email or contact information. Advising, I get a lot of advising questions. Again, I don't advise directly, but I can get you in contact with the people that can. So yeah, any questions you have, if you have any doubt about anything, just email me. I'm on my email all the time. To my wife's disagreement, I'm always on my email. No matter what I'm doing, I've got my phone and my email. So if you email me, I'm going to get it and get back to you pretty quickly.
That's excellent. Well, Kevin, we have run out of time. Like I said, this is a hot topic. So thank you for spending time with us today, answering these questions.
Yeah, no problem.
And Corey has put up the webpage where you can go to the BCTC website and learn more about online learning. And then also Kevin's email address has been there as well. So please ask questions. And we are so excited to have you partially in person and somewhat online this fall. Correct, Kevin?
Right. Or all online.
Or all online. That's right. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. Everybody have a great afternoon.
Bye, everybody.